This is the new ARRI ALEXA Mini large format camera.
Cinema 5D at NAB 2019 is brought to you by B&H, the professional source for all your video needs. CVP, the leading specialists in creative cine, video and photo solutions. Gudson, capture the world. Laowa, unique cinema and photography lenses. And SERP, better films.
Hey guys, Graham Mailer-Sheldon here from cinema5d.com. We're at NAB 2019. On my left is a ARRI Mini LF, one of two on the planet. And Chase is here from the ARRI team to explain a little bit about why this camera is so incredible. I can already guess, but Chase, tell me a little bit about this guy to my left here.
Absolutely. So with the Alexa Mini LF, we took that same great large format sensor we introduced last year with the full-size Alexa LF, and we fit it into a tiny mini body. And as you can see, it's not much bigger than a normal Alexa Mini. It's actually just 5.7 pounds or 0.7 pounds heavier than a normal Mini, but with twice the sensor. So of course it has more cooling, more processing power to handle that, and it comes with the same 3 sensor modes at launch that the Alexa LF has. The open gate is 4.5K with about a 44 millimeter diagonal or so. Then you have a 4K 4.5K, I should say, 239 mode, which is the entire width of the sensor, but it's flat 239, turning off the top and the bottom to get to a higher frame rate. Then you have a 4K UHD mode, which is halfway between Super 35 and full frame with about a 36 millimeter diagonal, all part of the camera. And it can shoot in ProRes or uncompressed ARRI RAW up to 444XQ ProRes, down to 422HQ ProRes, so all those great codec options in the camera. Now physically, the main difference is actually on this side. As we can see here, it has a hump. It's coming out of the carbon fiber, and this hump here is for the new media bay. Also adds an additional 3 user buttons, so you're up to 6 now. We have a new viewfinder connector up here. We have a new Wi-Fi antenna. So in the old Mini, we had, in the Super 35 Mini, we had just 1 antenna, but now we have 2 for better Wi-Fi reception. Right here, this viewfinder connector is quite unique because it's a coax type cable, which means when you unplug it and plug it back in, it has no keyway, so there's no such thing as the wrong way of plugging it into the camera. You can literally almost kind of just put it in there any which way, and it's good to go. And this system also allows us to run much longer lengths with the new viewfinder, so it can actually run up to 10 meters or 33 feet away from the camera, so underwater, stuff like that, which is awesome.
So Chase, there's a bunch of different advantages to shooting large format. Obviously, the depth of field, shooting at T2.8 looks almost like T1.5 on a large format camera. A 25 millimeter lens looks great in a wide shot, great bokeh behind your subjects. What are some other advantages of shooting large format on the visual side?
One thing you notice with large format is you have to use longer focal lengths to achieve the same framing, and with people, that's especially nice because what happens is, let's say you want to frame a person up, you might use a 50 millimeter lens on a Super 35 camera. There's usually very little distortion on a good 50 millimeter lens most of the time, but you still don't get that same flattening effect that you would with a telephoto lens. While on this camera, because it's large format, you have to use longer lenses to achieve the same shot. So in this case, you'd use actually a 75 millimeter lens to get the same field of view as a 50 mil on a Super 35 camera. Well, 75 is even flatter lens. It has almost no distortion, so people look better. Everything kind of looks better in large format. And we've talked to a lot of cinematographers, and everyone that's used the full-size Alexa LF cinematographer-wise, almost everyone has said it's almost really hard to go back to Super 35. I almost only want to shoot large format. And some of them are. Some have gone to the LF and not gone back to Super 35. But obviously there's disadvantages and advantages in terms of lensing. So, for example, a large format zoom lens to make a high quality one is going to be very big and very heavy because of the fact that you have that bigger sensor.
The Alexa Mini released like 2014-ish, right?
2015, yes. Right around this time, 4 years ago pretty much, 2015.
Okay, about 4 years ago. I mean, undeniably one of the draws for that camera was the form factor, but it begs the question, we have a Mini LF here, what are we giving up in terms of the full-sized LF by using the Mini?
Very good question. So obviously it has the same sensor, but it doesn't do the same exact frame rates because you're now in a smaller body, so it needs more cooling. For example, in a smaller body, you got to keep the camera cool so we can have that same operating temperature as all of our other cameras, which is 113 degrees Fahrenheit to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. It's the widest operating temperature range in the camera world, which is fantastic, but we have to keep that sensor cool, especially at high frame rates. So the camera can manage 40 frames per second in 4.5K open gate in ARRI RAW or in ProRes, so it's somewhat high speed, but in the 239 sensor mode where it's 4.5K wide but 239, or the 4K UHD mode, it can do 60 frames in ARRI RAW or 60 frames in ProRes, so still a decently high speed, whereas the LF can do 150 frames in ARRI RAW in the 239 and 90 in open gate. So it's about a little over 2 times, so close to 2.5 times as fast maximum frame rate, but image quality wise, it's the same.
Okay. Now, I know in terms of resolution, more Ks not always better, but tell me why 4.5K makes sense for a sensor of this size in your mind and the mind of engineers at ARRI.
Right, so what we did is we looked at what makes our sensor, we know, but we really looked at it, what makes it better, and it's that large pixel pitch. The pixels themselves are physically bigger, and so when we designed a large format camera, we didn't want to compromise on image quality and everything we already have, so we looked at it, and we've actually done this once before, as you've probably heard the Alexa 65 camera. That uses actually 3 of our Alexa sensors printed on one piece of silicon, but it's a 65mm digital sensor, so size, power consumption, frame rate, data rate, and lensing is a big issue for certain customers to use that every day. Now, of course, there's our customers that shoot Marvel movies and big productions that have no problem, and they're okay working with the confines, but when we designed the original LF, we said, let's do the same thing, let's keep that great image quality, and we're going to put literally more of those better pixels by printing a 2 sensor, an A2X sensor as we're calling it now, and it's 2 sensors instead of the 3, but it's all acts as 1 sensor. It's printed on one piece of silicon, but it's the size of 2 sensors. So you hear a lot of ARRI people say it's 2 sensors, not really actually 2 sensors, it's just the size because it gets people head, oh, it's twice as big, 2 sensors in size. So same sensor in the both. Again, that 44mm is what you get, and because we're putting 2 sensors together, we're ending up with 4.5K. So it was that compromise is still having a very high resolution. There's no compromise in the pixel pitch because they're the exact same pixels, just more of them.
Okay. And I understand you have an upcoming firmware update for this that's going to add a few different features?
Yeah, so the plan is, we're launching the camera, launching it as the LF Mini, the large format Mini, because we're still selling and supporting, of course, the normal Mini. We'll have customers still buying that camera. It's been a great success, and it'll continue it because they'll love the camera for its Super 35, and it's a little bit more affordable even than the LF. But there's certain customers that say, well, I want to buy an Alexa LF, but I'll need some Super 35 frame modes, and we understand that. At launch, they won't be available in the camera, but we'll add them as a firmware update at a certain point in time. We don't know exactly when, so we can't say that. But in those sensor modes, we're not exactly sure which ones we're going to move from the Mini, because obviously there's about, I don't know, close to 14 or 10-ish sensor modes, close to 10 to 14 sensor modes between the ProRes and RAW in the Alexa Mini, so we wouldn't want to put all of them in here because you don't need them. So we'll add a few of them, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually ask customers which ones are the ones that they use the most to get feedback, because obviously it takes a lot of time in coding and testing every single frame rate and every different sensor mode in the firmware before we release it, because we want it to be perfect. So in order to do that, we want to get feedback on which modes are most important. Now in those sensor modes, remember, since it's the same pixels, when we go into those sensor modes, whichever ones we add, whether we choose to add 3.2K ProRes, which is very popular in the Mini, or maybe 2.8K, those are going to be the exact same Super 35 sensor modes in terms of resolution as the existing Super 35 Mini. So that'll be great. It'll be great for a lot of people, but it won't add any additional resolution in Super 35. I had that question a lot. Oh, so you're going to have 4K Super 35? No, with these pixels, 4K is not Super 35. That's just the way it works. So, but yeah, it'll match with the Super 35 modes, at least some of them in the Mini.
All right, and just because we try to be thorough here at Cinema 5D, I'm assuming this is a paid firmware license.
No, I don't believe so. It hasn't been said that that would be the case. We are saying the camera is fully licensed, so I would imagine at this point we haven't been told that it would be a paid firmware license key. We just don't know when it's going to come, so we don't want to make any promises, and we don't know exactly which modes would be added into the camera. And we've had customers, say, I only need Super 35. We say, well, we have the normal Mini, we still sell it, we support it, it's a great camera, it's a little bit cheaper, go with that, it's fantastic. So it's kind of tackles, and of course we have the frame guides loaded into the camera as well for Super 35, so you can still frame for it even if you're shooting it now in large format, so you know where your cropping lines are.
Okay, so beyond the camera, I understand there's a brand new viewfinder here as well.
There's a brand new viewfinder. It uses that new coax cable that I was showing you earlier with that keyless system. The viewfinder is all new. It's got an OLED eyepiece that's very, very bright, and even capable of HDR as well in a future firmware upgrade. It's the same eyepiece as the ARRI film camera, great glass optics, and it's the same eyepiece on the EVF2 on the full-size Alexa LF. But we've added some cool features. It has a built-in eyepiece heater for cold weather conditions so that the eyepiece doesn't have a condensation. It has a whole new flip-out display, so it's now a 4-inch display instead of a 3.5-inch display with a much higher resolution, better picture quality, color, dynamic range. All the buttons on the viewfinder are weather sealed for no moisture ingress, and they even have different textures on them so you can feel what you're doing from the tips. You can see that zoom one there. It's got that little, so you know where your finger is. It's got a lock switch to lock all the controls on the viewfinder. It's even got a headphone jack at the bottom that's also weather sealed so you can listen to your audio, which is fantastic. So you have full menu control, you have 2 joysticks on it, and because of the new cabling system, you can actually run this viewfinder with picture and power up to 10 meters or 33 feet away from the camera, which you couldn't do with the older viewfinder. So it's great for using this as a remote control panel, let's say on a crane, or even for underwater use. So it's a fantastic fantastic eyepiece, ARRI image quality, but also lots of new features as well.
Okay, and I hesitate to ask, but pricing and availability, just for the camera, no accessories. Oh, and probably the lens mount.
Yeah, so the body and lens mount, because you probably want to put a lens on it, right, is about $58,000 US for the body itself and the lens mount, the LPL mount with the PL adapter as well. And by the way, this is LPL mount. It's not a PL mount camera. It's the same large format PL mount that we came out with last year with the Alexa LF, but the camera will ship with the PL to LPL adapter. I have a demo one if you want to get a shot of it, but it's the same exact adapter that we shipped with every LF. And when you pop it in there, it's mechanical, no tools, and you're good to go. It turns it right back to a normal PL mount camera, but the LPL mount is the native mount, which means you can use the fantastic signature primes, which are LPL mount native.
So I don't want to leave the audio guys out here. I understand there's a bunch of improvements on the audio side with the Mini LF as well?
Sure, so we've improved the audio capabilities on the Mini LF. One thing we did is we added 2 scratch track microphones at the front of the camera, so those record audio automatically for a scratch track, which is great. You can turn it off if you don't want it. And then on the back of the camera, we have a newer audio connector that now has an extra pin for 12-volt power, so instead, you can take one connector and connect it to an audio box that does 2 channels of audio and power all off of one cable right off the back of the camera, so it's super easy to add an audio box. It still does only record 2 channels of audio in, because it's a smaller camera. The Amira has more channels of audio, phantom power, digital AES. This is just 2 channels of line level analog audio, but now without one connector, it's just a simple connection to an audio box, which is really, really nice. And again, the 2 scratch tracks audio make it 4 channels total recordable in ProRes or ARRI RAW.
Very cool. So keeping in mind, there's only 2 of these on the planet right now. When is this thing shipping? When can we get our hands on it? Where's the rental houses in Los Angeles, Atlanta, Chicago, Germany?
Well, the good thing is everyone's ordered the camera, so a lot of rental houses around the world are going to have the camera. We won't start shipping the camera until July, so we'll go, of course, on the order of the deposits for place, so people will start getting their cameras in July through the end of the year. And we've had a great success, so at this point, anywhere between July and the end of the year, depending on when you ordered. But it's fantastic. The response has been awesome, and I think every major rental house, at least I know of in Los Angeles, being out of the Burbank office, has ordered at least 1 or 2 or 3 or more cameras, so it's fantastic. So starting in July, we'll start to see them pop up.
So there you have it, somewhere between summer and the end of the year to get your hands on your very own Mini LF. Chase, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anytime.
All right, guys, stay tuned to cinema5d.com for more continuing coverage from NAB 2019 here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Win $5,000 worth of gear in our NAB 2019 giveaway together with Serb and Joby. You can win a Genie 3-axis Pro Slider Epic Kit, a Magic Carpet carbon fiber slider, and a GorillaPod with Genie Mini. To enter the giveaway, simply click the link below and follow the instructions. All winners will be drawn on April 30th. Good luck and stay tuned to Cinema 5D.